Yops up, everybody. You know who it is. It's Yop here with another episode of Yoppie Dude, coming at you live from my drafty apartment. You know, it's kind of shocking. I thought most places like this, it was like a mandate to have like internal heating of some kind. I guess not. I have to really bundle up. And, but I've been finding that through all this time to myself, I've been grumbling a lot about the Watchtower. It's basically all I do with my time, and it really gets the blood pumping to, think about this war, think about it potentially coming to an end here soon, and this video is a very special one, actually. I mean, well, they're all special, but this one in particular, I think, is going to be one of the more significant videos on the channel, guys. Well, anyways, if you didn't know, the Watchtower is still doing their Zeta month thing right now. They're about halfway through it, allegedly. Again, I think they're going to end up extending it, but let's say they're about halfway through. And basically, I feel, as I expected from the beginning, because, I'm usually right about these things. I have like a sixth sense about it. I feel like there are a lot of elements that are not being adequately described and explained during Zeta month, and the Watchtower is making a lot of blunders, and I think we all expected that. But, honestly, I think this is kind of like a learning experience for me. I'm kind of putting my Zeta Project timeline video on the back burner for a little while, don't get too worried. And I'm going to learn from the mistakes of the Watchtower, and again, there are many, and I'm going to kind of break down today. I have like a little list, I came prepared, just with a few things that I think the Watchtower is just getting wrong, and that I think that you, the audience, should be aware of in case you're missing these elements, because there are several elements that I feel are very important when discussing the Zeta Project, because it's so depthful, guys. The Zeta Project is one of the most depthful cartoons out there, really, and why don't I just go ahead and talk about the first point here. First point I had listed, the artistry. Guys, this one almost speaks for itself. You've all seen the Zeta Project. You all know that it is the best looking animated show in the DCAU. This we can all agree on. Probably some of the finest animation you are going to see in all of animated media. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that would even come close to the look, the visual stylings of the Zeta Project, and quite frankly, guys, nothing really comes to mind. And that's not a slight to the previous works of the DCAU by any means. I mean, I think that Justice League Unlimited, they both look amazing in their own right, but nothing holds a candle to this, guys. The Zeta Project is just in a ballpark all its own, really, and it's very difficult to touch, and I just feel like the Watchtower is making huge mistakes by not adequately looking at those artistic stylings and really giving them the credit that they deserve, because they deserve so much credit. Somebody once said that a picture speaks 1,000 words. And honestly, that's kind of a boneheaded remark, because this is a TV show and it's made of many images. In fact, there's probably over like 2,000 images per episode. So really, the saying should be an episode speaks 1,000 words. Second point that I have written down here, characters. No TV show is going to function without a set of characters that you can relate to and that have depth and so much quality to their writing in particular. And I guess I'm kind of lumping the writing and the characters together here because they are so intricately intertwined throughout all of the Zeta Project. Really, they are. Does the Watchtower comment on these facts? No. They miss out on every opportunity to actually give these characters the respect that they deserve. I respect these characters. These are characters that I've always looked up to. So many amazing characters. You've got so many amazing characters. I have so many favorite characters in the show. I couldn't even tell you which one's my favorite. They're all my favorites. Every single one. Giving a spotlight to just one of them would be a disservice to the rest. I would need like 3 hours to adequately comment on every single character in this show, So we're not going to do that, but basically the characters are very important, and that's something that in my video we'll be highlighting extensively. Third thing I have written down here, the timeline. The Watchtower is butchering this timeline. I don't know who exactly is in charge of plotting all this out, who at the Watchtower is responsible for actually writing down the various details that they pick up from the show to lay out an adequate timeline for their videos. But whoever it is needs to be fired or given a stern talking to. It's like they're not even trying. Yes, the timeline in the Zeta Project is complicated. We all know this. Everyone under the sun knows this. My grandmother knows this. That does not excuse some of the follies that I am seeing the Watchtower just fall into time and time again. It gets so frustrating. Now you're probably asking right now, well, Yop, what kind of follies are you talking about? Well, I don't have time to detail them all right now, guys, but again, wait for my timeline video and you can see that there will be many divergences from what the Watchtower is laying out here. The Watchtower acts like their word is law, and you cannot possibly disagree with the timeline they're laying out here. No, there are subjective elements to this timeline. I will freely admit that. There are gray areas, there are loose ends, there are things that kind of don't make a lick of sense sometimes, but that's all part of the challenge, and the Watchtower is not rising to this challenge, guys. It's honestly kind of heartbreaking. Alright, I can't really feel my fingers anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the last point. I'm just gonna skip a few points ahead and just talk about what I think is one of the most important things to detail in the video: the Zeta Project's historical significance. Say what you will about the Zeta Project. Say you don't like the art, say you don't like the characters, say you don't care about the timeline because you're okay with being an ignorant fool. Well, you know what? The one thing you cannot contest is the Zeta Project's historical significance. The Zeta Project came out just when the world needed it. It has shaped not only countries, but the world at large. Some of the most influential people in history, I feel, have taken a lot away from the Zeta Project. I mean, really, guys, schools should be teaching this stuff. You know, you hear all the time, you hear people, like parents, complaining about things that the school system either does teach or doesn't teach, or it doesn't give enough focus to. Where's the Zeta Project amid all that? I don't see people picketing, bring Zeta Project to history classes or anything, That's the kind of thing that we need right now. The Zeta Project, it speaks to a generation, and at this point, it's spoken to multiple generations, because the show's like 50 years old now or something. Anyone who is anyone knows this show, and if they don't, then they are probably an infant who is yet to be exposed to it. Guys, if you're like an expecting parent or something, I don't want to tell you how to live your life or raise your child or anything, but you should be raising your child on the Zeta Project. And maybe slip in a bit of the Yoppie dudes sometimes, just for educational YouTube purposes. YouTube's an important site. So maybe kind of find like a balance there. I wouldn't mind a few more clicks. And infants, they just watch basically whatever you plop down in front of them. They don't know any better. Morons. And so there you have it, guys. Those are some of the important points that I wanted to make before Zeta Month completes for the Watchtower. Again, it is a shame that so many mistakes have been made so far. I honestly expected a bit more competition here. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that this is going to be more of a steamroll on my part. Granted, I haven't watched any of their Zeta Project videos just yet, but I mean, come on, there's just so many mistakes are probably in there. So many, it's ridiculous. They should be ashamed, you should be ashamed for watching it, I'm ashamed for even talking about it. But we all have our lot in life. And commenting on the Zeta Project is mine. Watchtower, you're in my neighborhood now. Tread carefully.